said good morning. Everybody looks so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. It's so good to see you. Let us start off by doing a little three-soul alignment, okay? I'm going to have everybody stand up. Let's just kind of put ourselves in a mind frame to kind of talk today. And a three-soul alignment is something that I learned through my Temple of Witchcraft studies. And so part of that course is we see ourselves as having three souls that are in the three worlds, the middle, the upper, and the lower. And so this exercise is to align those three souls and just kind of put us in a nice little mindset, okay? Imagine yourself a tree. Whatever tree speaks to you, if you like the oak, that's cool. If not, a maple, pine, what have you. Your body is a tree, okay? So let's start by taking one deep cleansing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Now the next deep breath, I want you to imagine that you're breathing through your heart space, that middle of your trunk, okay? Take a nice deep breath in. I am the namer. Now take a nice deep breath up through your roots. I am the shaper. And take a nice deep breath through your branches, pulling down. I am the watcher. Now let's take a deep breath through all three spaces at once. The 3 and 1, the 1 and 3. Let's do that one more time. As it was, as it is, as it ever shall be. And one last time, feeling those souls kind of coming in alignment together. Blessed be. Thank you. So, just to try to gauge the room here, how many of you have studied the wheel of, or the tree of life? Jeez Louise. You studied the tree?
A bit, yeah.
Okay.
Both sides.
The tree of life was a focal point for the 4th year of temple training. I do not consider myself an expert. I am a novice at best when it comes to the tree of life. For years, actually, I avoided the tree of life because it was a lot. It was a lot to take in. The concept was, it was deep. And so for those of you who don't know what the tree of life is, it's steeped in Jewish mysticism. There are people that study the Kabbalah, as it's pronounced in Jewish circles, for years. And so I definitely do not say that I'm an expert. I've dipped my fingers in, and that's about it. So I at least have a better understanding of the concepts after that 4th year because I couldn't avoid it any longer. Christopher talks about the tree of life in a lot of his books. And so, it would come up, my eyes would glaze over, and I'd be like, let's get through this chapter quickly, because I can't. But that 4th year, it really, you couldn't get away from it, because it was the center of the teachings. And so I found, for myself, I was able to better connect with the teachings when I found that there were guides that were linked with each of the Sephiras. And so that's why I thought that it would be a cool class for this year to talk about the specific guides for Chesed. So that really helped me. So the tree of life is a reality map. It's a way of looking at the cosmos. Just to give you a little bit more understanding, this is a visual depiction of the tree. What we have here are 10 spheres or sephiroths. And there's 22 pathways that connect all of the spheres. There is also an 11th sphere that some people don't really talk about, and it's not actually even on this particular map, but there is a Da'af is a sphere here, and it's known as the abyss. And so some teachings touch on it, some don't. Mine did, so that was cool. We got that exposure to it. But it's not, there's not a lot going on as far as like spirit guides there, at least from our teaching of it. Question?
Where does the 11th one fall off? Does it drop straight to the bottom?
It actually sits right here in the, oh no, wait. I think it might be like in here.
Okay.
It's in this area somewhere.
It's
Aha! Yes, right here.
A little ice that you can take care of.
So there-
Yeah,
Page 70, page 70.
Thank you, friend.
She pointed out to me, so I'm just sharing that for
Yeah, so like I said, if you're interested in learning more about the tree and there are lessons to be learned there. So I would encourage you to include that in your study as well. So 10 spheres, they represent levels of consciousness along with aspects of existence like God, love, and the physical world of Earth, which is the 10th sphere of Malkuth, okay? Let's see. So each sphere has a list of corresponding items, including the Deva spirits of these guides that we're going to talk about today. And then we've got the 22 paths. These are the roads or the gateways that link the spheres together. And these are represented in the cards of the major arcana. So we'll talk a little bit about that too, about the roads that lead to Chesed, which is here. It is the 4th sphere, and the sphere of mercy and compassion. So as I said, students of Kabbalah can, they spend their lives studying and understanding the tree of life. So there's a lot to kind of understand, and I don't expect, we're not going to get into all of that deeper type stuff, because I want to talk about the guides. But does everybody kind of understand what the tree is based on that? Okay. Cool. So how many of you have been coming to ConVocation for a few years? Cool. So are you liking, this is just me wondering. I'm not going to tell anybody. It's our secret. Are you working with the spheres as we make our way down the tree? Are you connecting with those as we go from year to year?
What fits and what doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested to ask you because you've actually studied, because this was weird for me when during my study of the tree, we started with Malkuth.
Okay.
Where did you start?
So I'm more so self-taught, and I focus on a lot of duality. So I actually, my original roots from that was from a video game that used the Sephiroth and the roots connecting the different branches, including Doth. Doth was very important.
Okay.
But then I looked deeper into it. I also had a friend who was Jewish.
Mm.
And so part of the duality, I looked both into the Sephiroth as well as the Qliphoth.
Okay. You're deeper. Okay.
Yes. For people who don't know, whoever asked, if the bottom, you can think of it as the roots of the tree. It's the tree of death, which is the exact same picture, only flipped upside down.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
for paganistic practices, we tend to avoid that because it tends to be a lot more darker things.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always lived with the duality of knowledge is power. You know how to protect yourself. You need to know.
Sure.
But
Yeah, I mean, because there's so much more that you can, there's just so much more. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you can there's a tree of life within each sphere. I mean, there's just a lot of deep teachings that are they're good, but it's deep. So anyhow, I was a little, it made sense to me for my year of teaching, or my year of study, that we started with Malkuth because that's the physical world. That sphere represents the earth and our life here. And so we started there and then worked our way up the tree. Whereas MEC, they started with one, with Kether, and we're working our way down the tree. I'm not saying one way is better than the other. I was just a little surprised. So I was just wanting to gauge.
A lot of people who do a lot of chakra stuff like to start at the top, you know, starting with the universe coming down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So they think of themselves as like the Sephiroth tree, and then we start at the top to pull energy from the universe down to
Right.
the roots
Mhm.
and to bring the energy out.
Right.
I know I learned the Tree of Life through my study of tarot, and we started at the top because it was like you are born, and then you have like, you choose your path kind of thing.
Cool, okay. All right. Yeah, I like to talk about like perspectives and like how things work. So that's cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Sure. The base is great though, because that gives you a foundation of what we are actively understand as a world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think maybe at least for my how I learn, that worked well for me
Yeah.
to start with Malkuth and to come up. Cool. All right. So let's define spirit guides. I mean, it's a pretty easy concept, but I want to make sure that we're all kind of on the same wavelength, so to speak. When I say guides, I know I'm talking about spirit guides as entities that we form relationships with in order to help us connect with the universal divine mind for a variety of reasons. Okay? There are opportunities to learn, to gain power, and to know ourselves better and grow our consciousness through our relationships with guides. The types of guides that I'm talking about are animal spirits, plant spirits, stone spirits, deities, fairies, angels, and tons more. But those are like the most popular. How many of you here work with guides already? Okay.
I know enough, I just don't work with them.
Okay,
I'm
that's
not-
cool. And
I'm not in tune.
it's not required. You've dipped the fingers, awesome. So there are a number of ways that we can form these relationships. Meditation is a really great and really easy way to make contact and form relationships. And we are going to meditate today.
Woo!
Yay! Oh, I heard some. My students down there.
Just for you, Jen.
Mackenzie.
So, let's see, what did I do? Okay, whatever. We've done that already. I put together an altar here that is kind of a typical altar. Each month, during my class, we would take a month and spend with each sphere, okay? And so we were required to set up an altar for that particular sphere. So that's what I've done here today with representations of guides, with colors, with cards, and things like that. So we'll talk about each one as we kind of work our way through them. And I think for the most part, I'm going to pass these around. So if you can't see, I'm going to pass them around so we can get tactile, because I like the fingers and what have you. So, or feel free to stand, what have you. We're going to start with colors, talking about colors. When working with the spheres of the Tree of Life, there are 4 different sets of colors that you can work with, and it's interesting. I had a hard time figuring out like why. There weren't, like I was having trouble finding information on why are there 4 sets? What are they doing? We dealt with the Queen's colors because there's King, Queen, Prince, and Princess, okay? I found lots of places that told me what the colors were, but only one resource that told me why they were, okay? So, there was an article written by Bill Hedrick, and that's where he kind of spelled out things. So, according to Bill, the king scale of colors and the queen scale of colors are the ones that are most used, okay? And this comes from the Golden Dawn workings. And the king's colors were selected from a standard color wheel, and so they're a stepping off point for the other scales. So they're kind of like prime-ish colors, and then the other scales are, you know, mixing things, basically, okay? The king's scale is classified as active in energy, and therefore it's used when we wish to project an energy outward into the world. So if you're working with the magic of Chesed and wanting to push something out, then you might want to use a king color for that sphere, okay? On the opposite side, the queen scale is receptive and used for drawing things to us. These colors are formed from what they called second choice colors. So they looked at astrological forces. So for instance, sky blue was used for an air sphere because the relationship between air and the sky. So that's how it kind of broke down. And I think the reason that we chose, well, that Christopher chose, I should say, to use the Queen's colors for his coursework is because he was looking at gaining knowledge for yourself and gaining an understanding of the spheres and of the tree. So it made sense to use the Queen colors, okay? The Prince scale is also sometimes called the Emperor scale of colors. And those are formed by combining the colors of the king and queen scales. And then the princess or empress scale of colors are more complex. They all have like flecks of colors in them. Why?
Are you saying like almost a glitter dust of a secondary color or?
Yes. And you can do a search for the scales. And it'll, I guess I could have like printed that, I'm sorry. But there's flecks of color. Sometimes it was metallic.
Did that like actually like mean anything, the extra color, or was that just meant for texture?
I wish I could find something. I don't know why. If somebody knows, point me in that direction because I'm dying to know.
Because they wanted it to
Because
look like glitter.
What's it, like
'Cause
glitter?
Yeah.
Is it like
I'm joking.
princess glitter?
Yeah.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
I'm gullible, dude. Don't do that.
I mean, it would make sense though.
Yeah, I mean, there is that, you know, princess thing, but I don't know. So then for the sphere of Chesed, the king scale color is deep violet. The queen scale color is blue. The prince scale is deep purple, mixing the two together. Then the princess scale is deep azure, flecked with gold. Sounds pretty, right? So that's why we have a blue altar cloth, okay? So the next thing to talk about is each sphere has an image that is connected to it. The image for Chesed is a ruler on a throne, okay? And I actually have, we have here a depiction. This is actually Zeus sitting on his throne. So Chesed is all about the loving father, the proud dad, okay? Who wants only to protect and provide for his children, like the sky does for everything on the planet. Therefore, the image of Chesed is the ruler on a throne. I'll pass this around.
So is that explicitly a male figure then?
Yes.
I mean, you said loving father, but.
So by extension of that idea, the archetype, is everybody familiar with what I mean when I say archetype, the God archetype? Okay. Sky fathers and wise kings are the deities that you can connect with when visiting Chesed. So for instance, let's see, so they're generally gods who rule over the sky. Many times they're thunder deities who reign from the heavens and are usually depicted as sitting on grand thrones and are surrounded by ethereal light and clouds. So of course, Zeus and his Roman counterpart, Jupiter, are prime examples of a sky father. Is anybody else like burning up?
Yeah,
Mhm.
very much.
Dare we prop that door open?
There's a thermostat in here too.
Can we do anything with it? Holy guacamole, I would take my hat off, but it would be pretty.
I think we'll have to prop the door open a little.
There's
It's outside the door.
Be comfortable where you want.
I'm just gonna wait out here though.
So I put it in the vendor area.
Oh, good. Hopefully that like moves its way up this way.
Terrible.
So, Zeus, Jupiter. They're Greek and Roman. They're prime examples of sky father archetype. Like I said, both are virile, they're protective. For the most part, they're decent dads to their kids. And so, right? To the many children. But that's kind of, that's the prime example of the sky father, are those two. We also have, I want to come back to you because you're really interesting. In the Celtic pantheon, we're looking at like the Dagda and Tyrannus. Tyrannus is known as the traditional sky father archetype in Celtic mythology, but it is the Dagda that is the Jupiterian connection, because the planet Jupiter is also connected with Chesed. So we'll be looking at Jupiterian energies and correspondences as we play around with guides in this sphere. In Egypt, of course, the Egyptians have to kind of throw things off a little bit. So in Egyptian cosmology, it's got a special twist. The sky father is Ra, and he is associated with the sun, which is associated with the sphere of Tifereth, not Chesed. In Chesed, we look at Amun-Ra, who is linked with Jupiter and the more Jupiterian energies, and the role of Chesed because of his wise rulership, and that he is a deity of wind and air.
Would Horus also be another one?
Pardon, who's that?
Would Horus also be another one for Egyptian?
Not in my teachings, but
Since, I have Horus for knowledge, insight, and wisdom, and he's also a sky deity.
right. But I mean, there is that air quality
Yeah.
too with that particular deity, and so he might be better for Tifereth.
Yeah.
Again. So we're looking for, because there's like water energies
Yeah.
and things like that. So that's why Amun-Ra is a
Okay.
better choice, okay? But that doesn't mean you can't.
Yeah, no. I mean,
If he shows up, that's who
I mean,
shows up.
obviously, they don't always stick in one spot.
Exactly. They don't take their number and say, oh, I'm going to stick with 3 or 4 or whatever. So in Middle Eastern, we're looking at Marduk, who is another wise father, wise leader. In Norse, we're looking at Thor and Bragi. Technically, Odin is the All-Father. I know people are probably like, what's scratching head? But Odin Father tends to have, there are other qualities that he has that makes him work better in other spheres, okay? Because he's known for his wisdom and he's known for his wanderer qualities, so he actually fits in other spheres better for his bags of tricks.
That's where I study. So I'm just sitting here going, Thor?
Yeah,
That?
but Thor makes sense because he's a god of thunder.
Yeah.
And so he is the sky god. And also, how many of us watch the Marvel movies?
Yep.
Who's the protector of Midgard?
I
That's
mean,
Thor.
his symbol literally means protection.
Right.
Right.
He is a big protector god. Because really, if you study the Norse pantheon, those Marvel movies aren't like a great depiction of Thor, right? I mean, blonde hair, really? So yeah, it makes sense that Thor is put in Chesed for that purpose, for his protector, you know, the giving of mercy, the Sky Father. Okay? Yeah, that's definitely a what? Wait. So
I appreciate the explanation because that helped my ADHD brain a lot.
I work with Odin too, so of course I was like, okay, Thor, fine, I'll give you this one.
Thor was actually my first thought.
Really?
As
Yeah.
opposed to Odin, yeah.
So in the Hindu pantheon, we look at Indra and Brahma, for those of you who work with the Hindu. I'm looking at you, Michelle. Indra is another thunder god who is the leader of the Devas and is also known as a great warrior who protected humanity from evil forces. So he makes a good one. Next, let's get more into Jupiter, okay? So, Jupiterian energy is what is connected with Chesed. They're linked by a lot of things. The number 4, Chesed is the 4th sphere. So there are lots of Jupiterian energies that come in together with Chesed. And of course there's that Sky Father connection too, Jupiter in the Roman pantheon. In medieval astrology, Jupiter is known as the planet of good fortune, or the great benefic, okay? Today, Jupiter is seen as the planet of the higher self, which means that Jupiter vibrates at a higher octave than the sun, okay? The relationship between the star and the planet is like that of Apollo and Zeus, that relationship. Because there's a lot of ways where folks might think that the sun should be linked with Chesed, but it's actually Jupiter. Okay. Good luck and fortune are connected with Jupiter, but it's the planets linked with the higher self where you will find greater magical relationship with the working of mercy and compassion. Jupiter is also associated with the signs of Sagittarius and Pisces, which is a water sign and a fire sign and a water sign. And so that helps us make connections as we look at some other guides as well. Any questions so far?
Is it Sag and
Pisces.